The long-awaited Hydro Archon is nearly here, and she's looking to be quite an impressive unit. Obviously, she's not perfect and has some drawbacks. How's it going, everyone? This is Kay, and let's break down the skills, strengths, and weaknesses of all the 5-star characters on the 4.2 banners to see who you should pull for. Furina is a Hydro sub DPS and a team supporter. She is not going to replace Yilan or Xingqiu in terms of Hydro application. In fact, her own Hydro enabling is just decent. It's helpful, don't get me wrong. Her primary support comes from damage buffing the whole team and making characters with team healing abilities relevant. You're not going to use her normal attacks unless you wail for her C6, which I'm pretty sure most of us can't afford. Instead, you'll use her CA to change her arc alignment, which affects her E skill type. Her default stance is Uxia, and that's for attacking. She'll have short hair and black clothing to indicate the stance. Numa is healing, and she'll have white clothing with long hair. When you activate her elemental skill, it deals damage scaling with her max HP, and then it summons 3 cute, adorable water pets to do battle while she's in her Uxia stance. So she's basically a Pokemon trainer. Changing it to the Numa stance will instead summon a water creature that will continuously heal the active character while the skill is active. The duration of the skill is 30 seconds on a 20-second cooldown, and you can actually change stances while the skill is active to help with different situations. On paper, that sounds absolutely amazing. Heal when you need to, attack when you don't, but the way Furina supports the team, you're losing out on damage dealt by her skill, energy regeneration, hydro application, and reducing the team's HP, which is a must, and I'll talk about that later. Because of this, you're not going to use her healing stance, especially when she's meant to have another healer on the team. While in her attack mode, you'll see a cute octopus, seahorse, and crab attacking enemies at intervals. They will strike at whoever the active character is targeting, dealing hydro damage scaling with Furina's max HP. Each of these water pets acts independently. Their ICDs are independent, they have their own damage, different attack intervals, and each will consume different HP percentages from your team, those damn little parasites. But losing health is actually a good thing. When they attack, if party members have more than 50% HP, these little pets would drain the character's health. The pets will then gain a damage multiplier based on how many characters got drained. Attacks will deal 110% of their original damage if only one character was drained, all the way up to 140% if all 4 allies lose health this way. Don't worry, they won't kill your team, since if allies have 50% or lower HP, the pets will stop consuming health. The seahorse deals the lowest damage at around 5.8% of Furina's max HP at level 10. It's single target and shoots a water ball once every 1.5 seconds and will drain 1.6% max HP from the team. The octopus attacks every 4 seconds, has some AoE, deals 10.7% of max HP at level 10, and drains 2.4% health. The crab is the strongest and has the biggest AoE attack. It'll strike every 5 seconds or so, deals 14.9% at level 10, and consumes 3.6% HP. Her A4 passive also enhances her water pets. For every 1k of Furina's max HP, she can buff the 3 water animals' damage by 0.7% with a max limit of 28%. For healing, it will decrease its interval by 0.4% with a max of 16%. So you want Furina to have a max health of 40k to fully utilize her A4. Her elemental burst is what buffs the entire team's damage. First, it deals AoE damage, but after that, Furina gains 1 fanfare stack for every percentage of HP that was lost or healed by a party member. The max amount of stacks is 300 fanfare points, and it will increase the team's damage by 0.25% per stack. It'll also increase healing bonus by 0.1% per stack at level 10. So you'll have a max damage bonus of 75% and healing bonus of 30%. The goal is to have the entire team's health fluctuate back and forth. This is why you usually don't want to use her heal mode, since the 3 water pets will no longer drain HP, which is absolutely necessary for her. This ability also synergizes well with lots of Fontaine characters, since they have a self-HP consuming skill. Of course, damage taken from enemies will also help gain stacks faster, which is why shielders aren't recommended. Instead, healers will become vital, as Furina can solely concentrate on her attack mode to deal damage and drain HP, while the healer can bring health back up. Furina's A1 passive also helps with this. If the active character gets overhealed by other units other than Furina, she will heal other party members once every 2 seconds for 4 seconds, and the amount recovered will be 2% of their max HP. This again will help gain stacks faster for your rotations. Now, if you want her to be an even stronger support, and of course if you have the moolah to spend, C2 is a good stopping point. Hell, even C1 is very good, as it immediately gives her 150 fanfare points upon casting her burst, which gives gives 37.5 damage bonus right off the bat. It also increases the limit from 300 to 450, therefore increasing the bonus even further once you gain max stacks. Her C2 is even better, and keep in mind you gain the benefits from Constellation 1, but at level 2, it doubles the fanfare amount she gains when HP fluctuates, resulting in maxing out her burst effect even faster. Additionally, any extra fanfare points above the limit, so remember 450 from her C1, Furina gains 0.4% max HP with a limit of 140%. This helps a lot with build flexibility as you can now focus on ER or crit substats. Again, the goal is to get her at 40k HP, so this will help out a lot. If you're rich enough to get her at C4, it will help with energy, which can allow you to use different weapons or substats on artifacts. It restores 4 energy every 5 seconds when her pets hits an enemy or when the healer restores HP. Again, C2 is a good stopping point, but if you're rich enough to go all the way up to C6, it will then transform her into a pretty decent on-field Hydro attacker. At C6, when using her skill, she'll enter a state that infuses all her normal attack talents to Hydro for 10 seconds, so NAs, CAs, and Plunge will be affected. Damage will also increase by a certain percentage of her max HP upon hitting enemies with her normal talent. If she's on the Usia stance, it'll heal all party members. Now if she's on the Numa stance, her normal talent's damage will be further buffed and it'll consume 1% of all party's HP. Furina is a good sub DPS comparable to even Yelan. She's good in single target and AoE situations, not to mention her burst also buffs her own damage output even further. Her Hydro application, though not the best, can be useful especially if you need that extra enabling. It's fast enough to help in some situations, but oftentimes you'll need a primary Hydro enabler or driver. So on top of being a great off-field DPS character, her offensive buff is phenomenal. It does require a primary healer, meaning you have to sacrifice a party slot for them, a position that could have been used by another damage buffer support, but Furina can easily offset that sacrifice for what she offers. She's going to make team-wide healers very viable in battle. Not everyone has top-tier healers like Kokumin or Baizhu, so this means some neglected characters like poor Jean, even Barbara, and others can function within a Furina team. Obviously, having better units will yield better results, but this also means future healers will benefit greatly thanks to Furina. Okay, so here is a character who deals good damage, has a strong team damage buff, and essentially future-proof healers. She herself can heal very well, only issue is that you'll sacrifice damage if you use it, but if you have friends who still play this game, I sadly don't, her healing can be useful in co-op. She isn't perfect though. Safe to say, no one was expecting her to replace current S-tier Hydro enablers, but if you are looking for that S-tier Hydro enabler, she isn't one of them. She's also very burst reliant and will require a lot of ER stats. This is because she'll remain off-field majority of rotations, which means less energy when absorbing particles. With a need to balance crit stats, HP percentage, and ER, Furina can be quite demanding to build. Another thing to consider is that she's literally killing the team, which is part of her support, I know, but that doesn't mean your characters aren't in danger. Obviously, you'll have a healer, and worst case scenario, you'll use Furina's healing, but some of those damn bosses hit really hard, and if you aren't careful, then you can lose. So there's a bit of HP management that needs to be done. Baizhu is a great character to have for any player. Now, is he absolutely necessary to pull? Obviously no. What he excels at is offering multiple utility support for the team. Healing is what he does best, but he provides small yet consistent off-field Dendro application, a little interruption resistance, and damage boost for Dendro reactions. Think of him like a Swiss Army knife. No particular tool is overly impressive, but by having multiple types of tools in a single unit, makes it helpful for several situations. First, his E skill is handy since it gives a team-wide healing with very good recovery. Depending on how much max HP he has and the skills level, it can recover well over 8k for everyone in a single use. It also acts as a homing missile that hits 3 times before healing. Now, if there are multiple enemies, the attack will hit 3 different enemies, so it's a little helpful to apply a bit of Dendro before starting off your rotations. Baizhu's burst is the most important part of his role, which means you better stack those ER stats because you need to use it every rotation. Breaking down his burst, it generates a shield for the active character, but don't rely on it since the damage absorption is very low. It can, however, help with interruption resistance for like a hit. Good thing about it is that a new shield will regenerate every 2.5 seconds. When it breaks or expires, the shield will heal the active character and fires a homing Dendro missile. Now, don't rely on his damage or the Dendro application from his burst, since the AoE is very small, usually hitting a single target. It is, however, very consistent, working well with quicken teams, or just to give you some extra Dendro application, but usually, Baizhu will not be your only Dendro enabler. On top of all that, his A4 passive will buff the Dendro reaction damage for characters who are healed by his burst. The scaling for Burning, Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon is 2% for every 1k max HP Baizhu has. Aggravate and Spread reactions is boosted by 0.8% for every 1k, and the buff's limit for the passive skill is 50k max HP for Baizhu. So you want to get as close to that number as possible, but don't exceed it. His burst lasts for 14 seconds and his A4 buffing effect lasts for 6 seconds, so you can technically quick swap characters to have multiple units gain the buff, but remember, they have to be healed by the shield to obtain the buff. To keep it simple though, it's usually meant for your on-field DPS or reaction driver. Additionally, his A1 passive can offer a 20% healing bonus for Baizhu if the active character's HP is lower than 50%. If it's equal to or higher than 50%, Baizhu gains a 25% Dendro damage buff. So Baizhu is obviously a support unit, but being a Catalyst Dendro character, he can be used as a driver for reactions, but of course there are better options to use. What makes him amazing is that Baizhu is a phenomenal additional supporter for your team, which makes him a strong 3rd or 4th slot character. He doesn't exactly excel in a particular area aside from healing, so you'll typically have another Dendro enabler or damage buffer within the party. Now, if you're lacking in strong primary support units, then Baizhu will not be a substitute that can fulfill that role. By strong supports, I'm talking about your Bennett's, your Kazuhas, Zhongli, Nahidas, you know these characters, and so on. If they are considered S-tier characters, then Baizhu is a very strong A-tier unit. His quick swap and ease of use gameplay, good healing, working with all types of Dendro teams, and offering multiple supports makes him a character I would recommend to most players. Cyno is a burst state DPS character. By using it, it transforms all his attacks to Electro, buffs his EM stats by 100, and increases his interruption resistance, but I would still recommend a shielder for better survivability and even better resistance from big enemy attacks. His elemental burst duration is quite long, with a maximum limit of 18 seconds, 10 seconds when starting out, with an additional 4-second bonus when activating his enhanced skill, which means it will usually outlast a lot of support abilities from your team, so you'll at times need to switch him out early. While in his enhanced state, thanks to his A1 passive, there's a quick time action for his E skill. By timing his skill correctly, the damage will increase by 35% and will also fire off 3 big AoE lightning bolts that deals damage as well. Personally, I find it kind of fun, and essentially that's the bulk of his gameplay. Very simple. Use his burst, normal attack till the eye symbol appears, and then activate his skill. Rinse and repeat. His A4 increases his enhanced NA's damage by 150% of his EM stats, and also increases the 3 lightning bolts damage from his enhanced skill by 250% of his EM. His normal attack talent does not scale with his burst NA's damage, so you can actually leave it at level 1, which saves you a lot of resources. Max out his burst, then skill. Now, being a burst reliant character means ER is a must. He'll offer very little if he isn't in his enhanced state. The 4-piece Thundering Fury can help a lot since it allows him to cast his E skill more often, which in turn produces more particles for himself. If you are using that set, Cyno needs a little over 180% ER if he's the solo Electro on the team. Having a second Electro, and depending on how good their battery is, can reduce the requirement to around 140-150%. If you aren't using the Thundering Fury, you will need well over 200% ER if he's the solo Electro, or around 180% if there's another. A neat little trick to get a bit of extra energy is to use his normal E skill first, then go into his burst. While enhanced, Cyno's skill cooldown goes from 7.5 seconds to 3 seconds, so essentially you'll be able to use EQE before the eye symbol appears. Cyno excels in aggravate teams. Typically you'll have one Dendro enabler, another Electro, Fischl being the best, and preferably a shielder so you can go beast mode with attacks without worrying about his survivability. He also works in Hyper Bloom or Quick Bloom teams, as you'll naturally build him with EM stats and he'll be helping you trigger their reactions, but you also do want another Electro to help. Shinobu can be a huge asset since she can trigger Hyper Blooms and heal at the same time. Unfortunately, Cyno is far from being the best in Hyper Bloom teams, as there are other characters like his best buddy Alhaitham who are superior within those teams. He's also pretty demanding to build. Not only is ER a requirement, but you obviously want crit stats, EM, and a bit of attack percentage. Cyno is a fun character to use and is quite good, but obviously he's not on the same level as several DPSs we have right now, and unless you want him for personal reasons, he's often overshadowed by others. Big Bro Ayato is in a pretty good position as a Hydro unit. Sure, he gets outshined by other Hydro characters, but Ayato can apply consistent Hydro for both on and off field. Most other units specialize in one or the other, but his skill makes him a decent on-field DPS, and his burst has a big AoE for off-field application. Ayato relies on entering an enhanced state from his E skill. While enhanced, by holding his NA, he'll slash enemies really fast while applying Hydro. The attack has pretty good AoE, and he also leaves a water illusion that explodes. Not only that, Ayato gains a stack when his enhanced NA hits, which buffs its damage, scaling with his max HP. Do not prioritize HP percentage over attack though, this is more so a bonus as the max stacks you can have is 4. It's a nice additional effect that puts those unwanted HP substats to use. His A1 gives 2 damage buffing stacks upon using his E skill, or he'll gain max stacks when his water illusion explodes, basically allowing him to deal full damage sooner. An important reminder, his normal attack talent does not scale with his E skill's NAs, so you can leave his normal attack talent unleveled to save resources. His burst is also an important part of his kit, similar to Ganyu's burst, but instead of icicles, Ayato summons rain droplets within a large AoE. About 36 droplets will fall during his burst duration, and individual enemies will get hit around 1 out of 3 drops. There's a chance they make it hit a bit more, but those are random. Now, his AoE is quadratic scaling. This means the total damage increases with more number of enemies that are grouped. A bad thing about his burst, however, is that you can't control when a specific enemy will get hit, which can make timing specific reactions inconsistent. Reactions like Xiangling Fate, for example, will be unreliable if you rely solely on his burst. A good thing though is that his burst increases NA damage for characters within the burst's AoE, which increases his own damage. You need about 200 ER to comfortably use his burst every rotation if he's the solo Hydro of the team, and around 150% if you have another. Obviously, you can make do with a little less depending on who your team members are. His A4 passive also regenerates 2 energy for himself every second he's not on the field whenever his energy is less than 40. So, why is Ayato good to have? He's good in both single target and AoE situations. As said before, he can be used on or off field for Hydro application, although the latter can be inconsistent in timing if you're targeting a specific enemy. Again, you can't control when the raindrop will hit the enemy you want. His best artifacts are the Heart of Depth or the Gladiator set, meaning you should have amazing pieces for him by now if you've played this game for a while. Him being Hydro means he can fit into a lot of high tier teams, the various types of blooms, freeze teams, electro charge, and vaporize, or you can build a Ayato hyper carry team where you focus on his personal damage. Basically, he has amazing team flexibility. Best of all, he's very easy to use. You can't get any easier than holding down a button to auto attack. Now, the bad thing is, Ayato isn't the most optimal choice for many of those teams mentioned. Oftentimes, there are several characters that are better choices for specific teams, like Child for Xiangling Vape, or Yelan and Xingqiu for off-field Hydro application for Hyper Bloom. This oftentimes leaves him outshined by others, but this doesn't mean he's useless. So who should you pull for on the 4.2 banners? Top priority is Furina. Yes, she has some weaknesses, but what she offers outweighs those negatives. In fact, she can make non-meta characters, if you want to call them that, specifically those forgotten healers, viable in battle. Obviously, we need post-release testing, but they're sure to benefit regardless, which helps all kinds of players, whether you're free to play with limited characters or a whale who likes to create unique teams. One being a C6 Noelle, which a lot of people are eager to try. A quick side note, for those old timers of Genshin Impact, if you have the festering desire, it's going to be one of her best weapons. But overall, Furina can uplift old units, future-proof healers, upgrade Fontaine characters, has decent Hydro applications, offers a phenomenal team offensive buff, and deals great damage off field. No character is a must pull of course, but Furina is a close one. Baizhu should be your second priority. Funny enough, he works amazingly well with Furina, especially when he has the prototype Amber for better team healing. His supportive abilities are a huge asset for Dendro teams, which is one of the most used elements in the game. Sure, his shield and Dendro application isn't great, but he gives a decent damage buff and is a strong healer. His usage rate in multiple Abyss updates has remained quite high. Not on the same level as S-tier supports of course, but he is a good endgame character. Now, many players use Yao as a Dendro healer. Baizhu is superior in healing, but they offer different strengths and weaknesses, and if it's hard for you to justify wasting Primogems on Baizhu, and you're fine with just using Yao, then skipping him is a choice. I personally think he's still worth it. So after those two, Ayato would be the next choice. Despite being outshined by others, he still has good usage rate in several Abyss updates. Again, his ease of use, flexible team synergy, and being a Hydro unit means he has value. If you're in need of a good Hydro unit, he won't disappoint you. Now, if you're looking for a great Hydro unit, there are better ones worth waiting for. Unfortunately, last on the list is Cyno. He's fun to use and a decent DPS, but compared to the other three characters, Cyno offers a lot less. For clearing Abyss, it really depends on the type of enemies, but he definitely has lower usage rate compared to Baizhu and Ayato. He's a unit meant for those who like him as a character. Now, this does not mean he's bad, but when deciding on who to pull for gameplay reasons, he's at the bottom compared to the other 5 stars. But comment down below to let me know who you're pulling for on the 4.2 banners. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for future Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail videos. Best of luck on your pulls, everyone. Till next time.